So I was listening to a conversation or an essay by Arthur Koestler, and the essay essentially revolves around the Holocaust, the 1940s, World War II, and the conversation was around what was happening around those times. And according to one set of observation and analysis, there were a lot of atrocities that were being meted out to a lot of people belonging to an ethnic background. And the question Arthur was asking was, how could this happen? How could people not see it? How could people see it and not act against it? And there are many such questions that he asks in the essay. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I was trying to join Arthur's essay with this conversation. Our conversation was around a particular public utility run by a government. And then we brought up a few of similar engagements that we have had in the last almost 8 years. And so there is the education department of our state, there is a law and order department of the country, and similar other organizations. There were a couple of private organizations as well. The question that one was trying to ask is, why are people not changing? Now, that's the first question that comes to mind, that here is the change, here is what is required to be done. Why are people not changing? And there is something wrong happening. So these are essentially, conversations around the wrong happening in the society or in the organization. And then one anticipates that a large number of people would be able to witness it, assimilate it, reflect on it, act from it in some manner. So when I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, some insights just happened. So I said, let's look at an individual, myself or others. And if any point of my life somebody were to walk up to me and ask me, are you fighting any battles? Are there any storms? Are there any challenges? Are there any hurdles? And at any given point of time, I'm sure there would be certain answers that one can give. Some things are challenging, some things are hurdles, some things are overwhelmingly debilitating, destructing, disappointing. So what happens over a period of time? I think what happens is one has had the experience of fighting many a battles, many a storms, many a hurdles. And the outcomes of those, so the efficiency, the effort towards it, the framing of it, the efficiency with which one has tried to overcome them, and the outcomes one has got from them. If we were to just map all of them, then one can safely assume that not all battles were won, not all outcomes were fair. A lot of places one would have tried to bring in change in oneself or the other in different ways, and some would have succeeded and some have not succeeded. So today when we interact with any human being, I think what we essentially miss out is the baggage that one carries. I think much as there is a depiction of one's achievements in one's resume and curriculum vitae or social media, where one wants to depict the kind of achievements one has had, insights one has had, there's also a huge space of places where people find themselves not in a flow state. People find themselves confused, not having meaning, purpose, or having clarity around these, but not having the right resources, opportunities, structures, skills in order to pursue it. So I think a lot of people, by design and or by default, can only attend to a few battles and few storms, and they have a baggage and or experience of past storms or battles. Not only this, the person has also had the exposure of looking at people around and getting an exposure of how they have dealt with different battles and storms, and what have been their outcomes, what has really taken to reach those outcomes. And one has also seen failures. Now, I'm not trying to oversimplify this whole thing, but what occurs to me is, and this is no defense of people who are not speaking up, I think even before we are offending, defending, or even saying that there is a conclusion or inference to be passed on what people are doing and why they are doing it, my humble submission to my own self and whoever might have a purchase on it would be that there is, every action has actions embedded in it, a lot of micro actions embedded in it. Every motivation has many more motivations embedded in it. And a lot of people are simply either exhausted of the past battles, or are saying that let me just first focus on these battles and then I can perhaps take care of the other battles. Let me reach a particular state, or let me overcome certain hurdles and then I'll do it. Sometimes you just see that there is too much of unfairness around. What's the point? So we could also map people and their states whenever they can report or can observe them. We can say that they fall in the category of, sometimes somebody would come with the philosophy and or spirituality of things will take care of themselves, then, or somebody higher, deeper, beyond would take care of all of this. And this person's reaction, if the person believes in something like this, would be very different. Then there are people who would say there's no point. This has been going on for again and again and again in humanity. Every now and then you see set of problems at the level of individual, at the level of family, at the level of friends, at the level of neighborhood, level of city, state, nation, groups, interest groups, causes, globe. It's just too many problems. And you solve one, another comes up. You solve one, another comes up. So some people would believe that there are just too many of them and they have been around. And something else will crop up if we solve it. So we could have them as certain set of people believing in something like this. Some people would believe that, okay, let somebody else try it, see where it goes. We'll just be observing. And at the right time, we'll join them. Let somebody else do the initiative. Why should I do? Or maybe I'm not the right person. So there is a certain amount of candidness and honesty there, that the person indeed says that I am not the person who can lead, who can make sense of this, but I am willing to look at some stage. Maybe I'll join if somebody else has an answer or can lead this. Sometimes you may find that some people would believe that there are people who are just making an opportunity out of these causes and interests and atrocities and harm. They turn themselves into a harm entrepreneur, a cause entrepreneur, a non-government entrepreneur, an activist entrepreneur. So there is that too. So some people would fall in that bucket also. Then you would have people who have something so gripping in their own life. They just can't see things. They just can't see anything beyond that. So there's not even a question that comes to them that they should or should not see what's happening at a mass level and have an opinion about it, develop one, and act from it. There are these nuances too when we look at any change project. So if I just zoom out, I think at a meta change level, one can see that there are so many change projects that are happening across the world. At every point, at the level of every human being, there are so many change projects. I mean, imagine this: if everyone has an opinion about 3 things that they want the world to, or rather 3 change projects. The 3 change projects could be pertaining to self and or the other, or the rules, norms, incentives of the society. I'm sure today we are sitting on not less than 2-3 trillion change projects. The question then is, how do these change projects play out over a period of time? It's not that for the first time we have these change projects in the history of humanity. We have had these change projects in the past as well. I think at the level that we are in our civilization right now, with so much of interconnectedness, interdependencies, tight couplings that we have, so many parts of our civilization. Parts here would stand for people, things, norms, incentives, values, rules, goods, services, atomized tasks, whatever we may call it. I believe that there is a separate project, and I think there is a need for even setting up just for the sake of argument and conceptuality, school of change, which studies aspects of change. How does one change project taken up by one person and or a group affecting other change project of an individual and or the other groups? What are these change projects going to give rise to in terms of its pursuit while it is being pursued? And if there are outcomes, what are the emergent properties that would come out? What would it lead to? So for sure, there would be perceptions of fairness, unfairnesses that will come out of these pursuit of the change projects. And then what would that do in turn with other change projects and or, pursuits of human life, liberty and happiness? I believe that there is a lot of nuance that gets buried, forgotten, ignored by the sheer pace by which we are at each other's assessment, judgments, expectations, and to add to it the past packages. So, yeah, these are just immediate spontaneous thoughts that are coming up. We'll continue on this.